this is Andrea Warner, and I'm one of the hosts of Pop This. We're on our summer break, so every week in August, we're digging into our archives to resurface some of our favorite past episodes. This year marks the 25th anniversary of You've Got Mail, so we're taking you back to episode 170 with the one and only Dina Del Bucchia, hilarious human, poet and author, and noted enthusiast of rom-coms and beaches. What a perfect summer pairing. We hope you enjoy this blast from the past. We'll be back with a new episode of Pop This on September 6th.
You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
I'm a little nervous to bring this topic up.
Oh, God.
Because...
Is it just about your... Are you joining a cult finally?
Oh, I thought you meant my rash. No, I'm not. No.
Wait a second. I want to get on this rash.
No, I
didn't know about the rash.
I haven't quite moved on to Plan B yet. Are you telling me that it's time?
I just heard this thing about like sea levels today, and I was like, I guess it's time for us to all enact our apocalypse
Just
plans.
so our guest knows, my Plan B in life is a cult. I've always said that. Like,
just to join
in case things don't work out, I can start over with some new friends, new set of beliefs, new clothes, new food. It just seems ready for me.
I love it. Also, I wrote a story about a cult. A fictional story. So I'm ready to talk cults at any
Well,
time.
if you're ready to be my cult leader, we can talk.
I'm considering it.
That's
okay,
amazing.
good. There'll just be a few points
I'm
need
really
to look
into
through.
the wardrobe aspect.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's good.
That's a good part of it. And the hairstyles. That's the main cult.
I see you both it has to be sort of like a somewhat sleek hairstyle. Both of you requiring...
I'm into minimalism. Is it a chic minimalist sort of cult look?
I kind of just want it to be more like a circle where everyone's braiding each other's hair.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
For no reason?
To keep it clean, keep it tight against the head.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about this cult
Keep it out of the way.
for sure.
I'm real excited for you guys.
I am. But no, what I was going to say, because we have a guest, I feel bad to say this in case this is something that comes up often, but I just want to tell people that nobody wants to talk about your eating issues. Ever. Unless there's a really good reason for it. I'm close to you. Mm-hmm. Even when I offer you something, if let's say I offered you a baked good, and you have lactose issues. You know what all you need to do when I offer you that cupcake with icing? Politely decline. What you don't need to say is, oh, if I eat dairy, do you know what happens to my body? Wow, no, don't care. Don't.
So you don't want descriptions of people's various diarrheas or their intolerances?
I do not.
What about their... What about just their fear-based reactions to things that are orange?
Oh, well,
Would that
that's
be of interest to you?
Mostly, okay, could be, because mostly this conversation's around just the boring things people talk about and use because they think perhaps it gives them an interesting identity. Oh, I remember Sonia. She's that lactose intolerant person I know. It's not, that doesn't happen, Sonia. No one's saying it favorably.
I 100% am interested in everyone's gastrointestinal health.
Are you?
I care about it deeply. I think it's super important. I will espouse the virtues of different fibrous foods to people.
So you can offer advice if they suggest to you.
I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to talk about psyllium husk. I'm here for it. My keychain is a tiny, cartoonish rectum. So I'm ready, and it's adorable.
So I walk up to you, and so do you have any dietary issues?
No.
None. Okay.
You know what? I sometimes get acid reflux, but I think that's just from the excessive drinking. So whatever, normal, to be expected.
Totally normal.
Yeah, and deep fried things. So to be expected.
Yeah, and if you eat too many onions, some issues can happen.
I kind of hate onions.
Yeah, but I love onions, but I'll still eat them. But if I walked up to you, let's say you had an issue. Let's
get into it.
Let's say you were kind of like astrology. If you had sort of lactose intolerance with gluten rising.
Yeah, I love this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm into
And I
it.
walk up to you with this cupcake that I've made at work. We're in a work setting.
Yep.
And I'm like, hey, I made cupcakes. It's Joe's birthday. Would you like one?
Happy birthday, Joe. My guts will explode, so no thank you. But you're really sweet. I think if you just keep it condensed, it
Simple.
can be good.
But here's the question. Am I meant, as the person hearing this information, to not look insensitive? Do I need to say, oh, that's too bad? What? No, I don't need to say anything.
I don't think there's
so.
any obligation on anybody. But I think the reason that people sometimes offer up all of that information is because they have been conditioned to feel a lot of shame around refusing offers of food.
Oh, okay.
You know,
right.
like I feel,
Which
like,
is fine
so
if
often,
I follow up with, oh, come on, have one. Like that.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I have.
'Cause
You're
so many
right.
people do.
I do. I
Oh
have
my
seen
God.
that.
Yeah.
What's wrong? Are you on some sort of dumb diet?
It's like when people are trying to get you to do shots.
Yes.
It's the
Yeah.
same.
Yes.
It's like, come on, do you want to do these shots? It's like, I don't know. I'm almost 40 and it's like 11 p.m. So no, I don't want to do these shots.
Yeah.
No, there was never a good time in my life for shots, and it sure isn't now.
Yeah, definitely not now. I mean, even though we did a whole round before we started.
Yeah. As that's the initiation.
Yeah.
For the Pop This podcast.
We did some China whites.
We do sneak it in the
Like
library.
the really bad ones.
and just like the best, like where the milk is slightly almost curdling, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just delectable.
And
Tasty.
hope that's
So
not
good.
bothering anyone's lactose intolerance. You just sound like a nicer person than me. You really do. And that's fine with me because but to be fair,
Lisa's used to it. It's
I will
fine.
also smile and nod. I won't judge you to your face. I will judge you later to other people.
That's
like
the
normal.
polite way to do it. It's like in Bridesmaids when she yells at her, why can't you just talk about me behind my back like a normal person?
Yes.
That's the attitude.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you should assume if you say to someone, you're not going to tell anyone, are you? And they go, yes, they will, of course, tell people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that is understood, right?
I think for
I
sure.
think so. Yeah.
I mean, later on, they might go, well, you knew I would tell my husband, right? You knew that. And you'd be, no, I didn't. Well, then you're dumb.
Do you ever like to just though like you don't ever like to just hoard a secret for later?
I mean, I'm kind of a great. It's not that I hoard secrets. I forget when people have told me something sensitive. So I'm a great person to tell something to. But there are these situations that have actually happened where people have thought that I was like doing some subtle shade to them, like in a conversation, and I'm like, and then they come to me after and they're like, "Hey, are you like?" kind of like, were you talking about me? And I'm like, no, why would you think I was talking about you? They're like, because of that thing I told you that was like deeply personal like 3 years ago that I've never told anyone. And I'm like, oh, I forgot and I'm so sorry.
Oh, you forgot the deeply personal thing?
I always forget that. But that's, I mean, it's not because I want to forget. It's just that like sometimes people
So
tell
like
me
you're
a lot
like you're in a
deeply
court of
personal
law
things.
and they're like this person murdered someone and you're like, did she tell me that? Because I completely...
Murder, I would remember
Okay.
because I have like some moralistic viewpoints
Okay.
of my own on that. I think it's just like sometimes people will tell me like, oh, I like, cheated or I did this or I did that or whatever. And like things that I just, if I don't need to hold it, this is sort of like I try not to be a container.
Yeah.
I try to always just be a witness.
That's like
So-
self-preservation.
It is. Yeah. So like I just try not to carry other people's
There's
stuff
nothing
with me.
I like more, though, and I wish I could just put pause and hold on to the feeling when you can see someone's like kind of upset about something. You're like, what's wrong? And they're like, and they just pause and they look at you and they go, you can't tell anyone.
Oh, it's a moment.
Right? And you go, like you just...
The look on your face is like such gleeful anticipation. I love it so much.
It's just like Christmas or something, right? Where they just, and it's always that you can't tell anyone.
Yeah.
yeah.
And you're just like, and then you have to go through a bit in your brain, like, what could this possibly be?
And the more that person also then makes you promise, like you have to promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're really entering into a long-term contract.
Right?
With that person.
And then they're like, and then they're the ones who know, not even your husband.
Oh, a classic move.
Those people are
Classic
smart.
move.
Those people are real smart.
They know, but then they really shouldn't be telling this information to anybody.
Just
at
hold
all.
on to it in your body until it festers, and then you have gastrointestinal
I was going to say,
distress.
like, wait until the secrets kill you. That's fine.
And there's really, really no point
Yeah,
in
that's
having
fine.
the secret until you can go to someone and go, you can't tell anyone.
Yeah.
She totally made me like swear.
It's just chain relief. That's all that's. It's like it's just like passing along a small sippy cup of Pepto-Bismol. That's
Yeah.
This is a weirdly decent segue into what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Secrets, subterfuge. There wasn't much gastrointestinal. Was there? Nope, there wasn't.
No. I mean, I would have written it in my notes.
A serious lack.
Generally,
of
there is with Meg Ryan in a rom-com. There's always some kind of dietary need she's
this one
working
refreshingly
free.
Yeah.
People just ate for pleasure in the film.
I know. That's kind of nice.
They did.
And they also consumed a substantial amount of coffee.
Oh, wow.
True.
So everyone's probably pretty regular. I just want to weigh in on that.
Agreed.
So Dina's happy.
Yeah.
You're listening to Pop This. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
And we are so excited today to welcome the incomparable Dina Del Bucchia.
Who you can tell about your dietary needs.
I almost just made a fart noise. But I held off.
And Andrea Gin is thanking you right now.
I was like, what?
Thank you so much for holding back. So it's pretty exciting. Would you like to start us off with why we're doing this episode and what we're doing?
Well, it is Valentine's Day, everyone. It's that time of year that you're either super excited about or will mock on Twitter. One of the choices.
Those are your only options.
Usually
it's
the
a real
ones.
Binary appreciation or
Usually.
disappreciation of Valentine's
I find most people aren't vague about it. They usually have a thought they will share.
That's
if you say,
true.
it's Valentine's Day, they don't go, huh. They go, or... Right?
Yeah.
No one saw my face.
I was
there.
like, these are just two sighs that have just left your body, and people can't tell the facial expression that goes with each one.
But they were good acting, wasn't it?
they're great acting.
Thank you.
Yeah, great acting.
So yes, it is Valentine's Day, and our guest is the co-author of Rom-Com, plus a total expert in all things books.
It's true.
Capital BOOKS. So that means it's time to finally take on You've Got Mail.
Woohoo!
The 1998 American romantic comedy film starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, directed by Nora Ephron and co-written by Nora and Delia?
I think it's Delia.
Delia Ephron, inspired by the play Parfumé.
And I have the great pleasure of introducing Ms. Dina Del Bucchia.
Yeah, you get to read the bio.
I know. It almost, I'm sure people have observed this before, but it's almost like it sounds like Bucchia is your last name.
It's good. I sometimes do explain it to people when they're struggling with
like
pronunciation.
Books.
Yeah.
Books. Mm-hmm. It's great. It's great. I want to hear you, I want to hear it flow off your tongue.
Dina Del Bucchia.
Thank you. So sorry about that.
You made like...
Boo.
Yeah, there we go. Boop.
Yeah.
I said it with a bit of an accent,
which
I don't have.
No, I know, but I liked it. I like the faking of it. Dina is the author of 3 collections of poetry, Coping with Emotions and Otters from 2013, Blind Items from 2014, and Rom-Com from 2015, written with Daniel Zamparelli. Her 4th book of poetry, it's poetry, right? I thought, okay.
Yeah.
It's a Big Deal, which it is a big deal, will be out very soon via Talon Books. You also co-host Can't Lit with Jen Sukfung Lee, which is all about Canadian literature and culture. You guys have had a couple years. They're pretty good stuff going on.
It's been a time.
It's been a time. And your short story collection, short story Under the Tea, was a finalist for the Writers' Trust RBC Bronwyn Wallace Award in 2012. You also published a collection of short stories, your first, Don't Tell Me What to Do, in fall 2017 with Arsenal Pulp. You're the senior editor of Poetry is Dead magazine, artistic director of the Real Vancouver Writer series, and you have an MFA in creative writing from UBC, where you are also an instructor.
Wow, that is a bio and a half.
I teach one class, but it sounds
You know
fancy.
what? Sounds great. I love it, and you are more than qualified to talk about You've Got Mail. I just want to put that out there.
I hope
all of that to
hope people
discuss
weren't
this
worried.
completely ridiculous
Yeah.
movie. So, thank you for doing all of this to join us. At some point, you knew all of this would bring you right here, didn't
Just
you?
for this
This
moment.
is what I've been building to my whole life. So I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, it's something.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah. Do you want to give
Yeah.
a quick, just a
this
quick
is our
synopsis of
quick
you've got
synopsis
now. In
for
case you
those-
haven't seen it, there will be spoilers.
That'd be weird if you hadn't. But
Yeah,
that's
you've
okay.
had a long time, guys.
Yeah, rich business heir Joe Fox opens a big box bookstore in the Upper West Side around the corner from Kathleen Kelly's long-standing kids bookstore, Shop Around the Corner. Unbeknownst to the business rivals, they're also secretly involved in an online romance. When Joe discovers Kathleen's identity, he attempts to win her over despite having helped put her out of business.
I know. It's such a classic, just capitalist love story, right?
It's a...
I mean, I got a lot of feelings.
I do too.
I have a lot of feelings too.
Yeah,
I have a lot of feelings too. Do you guys remember seeing this when it came out?
I don't.
Okay.
And I think
I don't
for
either.
me, it was one of those movies like I had just left my small town and moved here to go to university.
Yeah.
And I was just too cool for everything. Like I was definitely too cool for rom-coms. And I think this was the kind of movie that for the first time I watched when I eventually could afford cable a few years later.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was on TV with the commercials interrupting, etc.
Yeah.
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 But I don't remember it being that remarkable. Like I definitely saw Joe versus the Volcano at a theater when I was a child.
And you remember that, like,
And I remember that.
Yeah.
Because I went to the theater.
the first entry point in the Tom Hanks,
In the Tom Hanks,
Meg
yeah,
Ryan
canon.
canon. Yeah.
I'll be honest and just admit to everyone here that I haven't seen Joe versus the Volcano.
I mean, it's not very good.
It's not. Yeah. Like I said a very long time ago. I don't remember.
I never
anything.
felt there was a reason to, so I didn't.
Like we saw, and we did Sleepless in
Yes, we did.
Seattle.
Yes, we did.
And that was fine. Like
Yeah.
there were, but I mean, I also
It is
remember,
fine.
Yeah, I. It took me a long time to come around on rom-coms, and frankly, part of my coming around on rom-coms was in part Lisa, and then the other part was you and Daniel's book. It really gave me an appreciation that I had I had been too cool. I thought romantic comedies were sort of like essentially the least feminist form of entertainment in movies, and I have come along quite substantially in terms of like how I feel about them for the most part.
Recently, I was listening to This American Life podcast on rom-coms that they just put out, and their guest was this man who loves them so much, and his reason was, I love seeing men and women talk together.
That's a great reason.
I mean, that is a good reason.
I thought that was, for some reason, to me, it was always about, I feel bad saying this, but it was always about the end. I got to see two people fall in love. But for him, he said, it's about seeing men and women speak together. Sometimes the dialogue is witty. Sometimes it's just a conversation that's really satisfying to watch. He said, but he really enjoys seeing that dynamic of men and women, and it isn't in any other movie. That was...
Yeah, he's got a solid point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And I also think like the feminized art forms in the world are always the ones that are considered less important, less
Yes.
interesting. I mean, superhero movies, which again, I mean, any gender can appreciate things.
Yeah.
But there's all, and action films, like there are all of these other very distinct genres that were very clearly marketed to make money. And women are expected to see those movies.
Mm-hmm.
If they're in a heterosexual relationship, they're expected to go to these films. But men were not necessarily expected to watch rom-coms. Like
Yeah.
rom-coms
Yes.
were, it's like things that are for men are for everyone, and things that are for women
Yes.
are just
Yeah,
for
yeah.
women.
Yes.
And so that's kind of, and even with Daniel, I started
Yeah.
to appreciate them more.
Yeah.
I know that I watched a lot when I was a kid. Like that would be the things we would rent for, from the video store.
Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of them were family friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Big comes to mind.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
another Tom Hanks vehicle.
Yeah.
So I was definitely raised on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all comedies of all kinds, but.
I feel like I think I interviewed you and Daniel for the Georgia Straight when your book came out, and I feel like I remember him telling me, why isn't it feminist for a woman to choose to want to be in love? And I was like, no, you're right. I'm with you, Daniel. I'm just like, I hadn't had it framed sort of in this way for me before.
Yeah.
I really remember this conversation on the season finale of Mad Men. Did you watch that? When Peggy Olson falls in love with the other writer, and everyone was so disappointed, and I was so heartbroken, going, why? We watched her struggle all this season. Her job was going well. Work-wise, she was fine.
Yeah.
Plus, we know what happens. Women are going to get a little bit better. But finding out that guy that she'd been working with and that they love each other, they'd been working side by side. Why was that? And I was really...
I think there genuinely are reasons when you're watching a movie or you're reading a book or you're watching a TV show to be like, this is terrible for this woman because the person is bad.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
There's like a crappy man at the end of it,
Yeah.
and you're just like, we can be angry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think exactly what you're saying. Like, I think so much of this also kind of ties into consent culture and like
Yes.
what that looks like. And if a woman is making a choice and one of her pursuits is that she wants to fall in love, then good. Like
Yeah.
in my new book of poetry, I have a poem where one of the lines, I can't remember it verbatim, is like, I admire gold diggers more than I admire entrepreneurs. Like, they're really out there working it, and I respect their vibe.
Yes.
Like, good job, you.
Yeah.
You know what you want. You set
Yeah.
a path. And it's not as if, I mean, the whole gold digger conversation is quite interesting because it really, the other person is not assuming anything other than that.
Well, and that kind
Like-
of relates to this movie for sure.
Yes.
For sure, yeah.
Yes, it does. It
Yeah.
does. It
There's
does.
a gold digging subplot that's.
Oh, Dabney
Quite a-
Coleman. Will
quite
you
a
ever
delight.
get a part in a movie where women like you? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he knows his niche.
He
and
does.
He plays to it.
He plays
Yeah.
it so well. So this movie, I remember watching it, not really caring much about it. I remember thinking about it again through the years as like people write different anniversary pieces or whatever, but I hadn't rewatched it until, this week for this. So
Same.
it was, well, I mean, on one level, shocking that it's like, honestly, we're watching it at home, and like I think about, I don't know, halfway through, Carlos was just like, is this just all gaslighting? And I was like, yeah, this is a real different lens to watch this movie in 2019. But at the same time, I was also a little bit upset with myself by how much I also enjoyed it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not great, but I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would.
You know what? The problem I really had, a bigger problem too, is that I don't know why we had to have those weak relationships that Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan were in. I don't know what the point of that was, to show that they could do better or to hurt these other people. Like, that was the unsavory part. They were cheating. Sorry. You're sending those.
I mean, I don't care that they were cheating.
No,
but yes.
in a rom-com
Yeah, they were.
setting, I don't know. I like rules. I like certain rules.
I love a murkiness.
You like the murky rom-com.
Yeah, that's. But I think also that's where more tension comes from. Like, I think absent some of that, there's less tension in the film. So I feel like it's more of a craft choice. Like, Nora Ephron's like, we got to do some other stuff here.
I thought
there
it
needs
was-
to be more.
But she did the same
complication.
thing in Sleepless
Yep,
in
she did.
Seattle.
She
She
did.
did because Meg Ryan had that weak boy husband fiance guy as well.
The weak boy.
I love it. The
But-
weak boy should be a character type that we talk about all the time.
It is a character type for sure. Weak boy.
The weak boy.
I mean, and Tom Hanks had his ex or had his dead wife as, I guess, what you
Right.
would consider
I mean,
his love interest.
I actually do
the
think
ghost wife.
The ghost wife, yeah.
I do think actually infidelity is a huge part of rom-coms. Like, if we really think, like, so often the characters are in situations where we see them in, like, oh, you're in a bad situation, and this, like, exit out is, your reward for surviving this, like, bad relationship.
And there's also male savior stuff. Like,
There's a lot
I
of
could
male
do
savior
so much
stuff.
better. I can treat you so much better.
Yeah,
Baby,
yeah.
come to me.
What I thought was interesting about this is it felt like, I don't think they did a lot of great stuff with Parker Posey's character. She got kind of the short end of the stick, but Greg Kinnear and Meg Ryan got to have, like, a pretty adult breakup.
Yeah.
I agree.
I was
Yeah.
kind of blown away by that. I forgot that was part of the movie.
That was one of the things I noticed when I rewatched it, and I was like, you have to make note of this. This is such a good breakup scene.
It is, however,
I'm glad that it exists in
Yes.
the world. Like, out of context, great. Like, this is how to write a good scene. If
Yeah.
you just, like, remove it
yeah.
as if it's its own entity.
Yes, because the only reason they were able to do that is because they both like other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so it's not as clean as just, they weren't going to do that if they didn't have someone else.
No. And I
that
guess,
they were liking.
And I guess, like, what we do get is that, like, Parker Posey doesn't really care about her relationship because it's completely inessential to her existence. Like,
Yes.
she's really focused on something else entirely. the publishing industry.
I loved her so much. She was the one I identified with the most. She knows about publishing. She knows about everything in that world. She is her own person. She's wandering around looking fabulous, being great. She knows what she cares about. She's super smart. She's good at her job.
Yeah.
She's just so great, and I wish there was a movie just about her.
I was going to say, so the movie was focused
Have you
on the
read
wrong
her
people.
book?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, me either. I want to.
I want to read it.
I really like her as an actress.
I do too. I think she makes great choices.
Oh, I always have.
So interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
always, yeah. And in person and in movies and every TV show, whatever she's doing, I like it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Joe Fox is not like this is a bad person.
Yeah, so that doesn't. Yeah, that
Like
is
it's
just.
he's really awful.
He does suck.
He does. He really sucks. Like it is terrible. When at the end she's like, I hoped it was you. Why? Why would you hope it was him?
Because she was at her lowest point
That's
after
true.
all this stuff happened.
You're right. He decimated her life, and then
did she realize? Oh, he's a billionaire.
I mean, I hope she was gold digging. You're right. That is my hope.
All of a sudden,
Kathleen, go for the gold.
because remember
get in
Gene
there.
Stapleton?
Yes.
This is the best thing for you now. It's a whole new life. You get to. Your
This
life
cast is pretty stacked.
Yeah, the cast is great.
Oh my gosh! And then I kept sending you pictures of the cameos.
Yeah.
Chris Messina.
I know.
It's
that was
so
wild.
so amazing.
Yeah.
And who
Callie
else?
from
Callie
Grey's
from
Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy is
Yeah.
Rose at the cashier there.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on in this movie? Steve Zahn,
Yeah.
who I usually like as someone a bit more crazy, but
I love him.
no, I do
I like
too.
him
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
but
When he did the
didn't have a
voice
lot
in the
to do
Planet of the
today.
Apes movie,
He had the great line though.
He does. Yeah.
Well, I wrote it down. I have to, because I had to remember it because it's so ridiculous. He says, "This place is a tomb. I'm going to the nut shop where it's fun." And then he leaves, and you're just like, "What happened?" But also, what an amazing line.
Yeah. Just exits.
Whoever wrote
He's
that,
gone.
just like nonstop applause.
Do you think it's Steve Zahn just made it up?
I kind of hope that he
I
did.
feel like it's one of those improv lines because going to the nut shop is not a Nora Ephron line. From what
can I also just say the reason they might have gone out of business is giving your books in a tote bag every time you purchase something?
Oh,
It's
so
very
expensive.
expensive.
I mean, they usually charge $1 for those.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
we charged $10 at Dathi Books.
Wow.
Okay, see?
Wow.
Like, I don't want to tell you your business practices are...
I was not running anything.
Yeah.
I just worked there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but one of the things that I do, oh my God, just watching. I know that's
one
the thing. Like,
sentence.
I can't. I have too many thoughts all at once because just thinking about what the last 20 years has wrought in the book industry, from like the arrival and celebration of big box bookstores to the decimation of indies, and now to the decimation of big boxes and the prominence of Amazon.
But there is a resurgence of indies.
And a resurgence of
Yes.
indies.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
But it's so interesting. So, and that's a 20-year cycle. That's actually a really short cycle,
Yeah.
I think, in the business world. Like, I was like, wow, this is...
Well, and the other cycle, too, I thought was interesting is that we're all, pretty much over so much of what we can do on the internet in terms of communication with social media. We're just like, oh my God, it's just a big, giant dumpster fire, every app you have. But it made me sort of, remember you'd go online and you'd find a chat room and then you'd find some people in it and have a little conversation. Like it felt, there was a bit of nostalgia.
There's a quaint factor
Factor to just that burgeoning before the dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Like the dumpster's just slowly being... pushed into the scene.
Yeah.
And the way that they wrote to each other. So this is, I recognize that this is a movie that is, about bookstores taking over the small ones, but it's also about words.
Oh, for sure it is.
It's about how we feel when we're reading and how we communicate, like, our better side.
I think it's very funny that now, we consider the internet the place of poison.
Yes.
But in this
opposed to the
movie,
promised land.
in person, people are being terrible to each other, but when they're writing and being thoughtful, when
Their
they're taking
best
time,
selves.
yes. And so it's kind of a reversal of what we experience now, where everyone's like, well, if only we could meet in person. It's like, well, that's not going to happen. So quit suggesting it.
Yeah.
We're not going to have this argument like over tea. We don't live in the same place. We're just on Twitter.
Yeah,
which is the same place.
We do, and you've been stalking me, and that's you on Netflix. So.
I know. I feel like with the lens of you, this movie really was a lot for me.
I know, exactly. Because, I don't think we were doing quite the same stalker scenario. I mean, there were obviously those movies around, stalker movies, but there was a certain real creepiness to how, once he found out that was her, how he treated her.
It was awful.
It was awful.
I could not handle how terrible he was once he found out who she was.
But then again, is it any less creepy or more creepy than Meg Ryan standing across the street in Sleepless in Seattle, looking at him?
She wasn't just like inserting herself into his life and nagging him constantly. Yeah. Like she was watching from afar, and like. I mean, yeah, sure, there's an element of creeper, but also the power dynamic is so different.
Yeah,
because,
Yeah.
And also, in that moment, she doesn't have the ability to manipulate the way that someone does when they have information on you and they're talking to you online.
Yeah.
Without, with complete anonymity.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's the parallels with this and you were weird to me and unexpected.
Yeah. I haven't watched You yet because I haven't been able to sort of access the creep right now.
Yeah.
I am watching You. Do you like it?
I finished it.
Yeah, okay. Then
here's the thing. I watched all of Gossip Girl. I watched all of Pretty Little Liars. I was ready to get into this.
I love Pretty Little Liars. It was terrible, but
you should definitely do an episode about it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Well,
but we could definitely do You. There is a lot.
There's so much. There is so much there.
But it's got a very similar bookstore.
Yeah,
too.
there's exactly.
Like they meet in a bookstore and
he works in a bookstore.
He works in the bookstore.
She wants to be a writer. Like they're all all these weird
She's a
parallels.
poet. Did you?
Yeah, to what's important in terms of language. Anyway, it's totally bizarre.
Do you dress in front of the window like that too?
I do everything in front of the window. I bring home a ton of anonymous guys and I just bone on a chair
right where you can see me and masturbate on the steps right
all
across.
of it. I do all of those things
all of
constantly.
Wow, guys. I mean, maybe we should have done that TV show. Sounds great. No, but like Joe Fox comes from, speaking of dirtbags, Joe Fox comes from this dynasty of awful men who have multiple, like, young wives.
And he hangs out with those children.
One's his aunt,
and one is his
brother.
Yes, brother.
Yeah. So one's his aunt and one is his brother.
And they're both under 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my God, I mean, I feel like Joe Fox is his best self when he's hanging out with these children. So that's a nice lens.
Because he has a sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
And accountability.
And accountability, yeah.
But this movie has no other accountability. That's the problem. Like, gaslighting happens, gaslighting, manipulation to get someone to feel something about you.
Yeah.
In the end, no apologies.
Yeah.
No accountability.
Yeah.
He just gets to continue to be a millionaire who runs the bookstore empire, I guess, which is
seems funny now.
Going to fall.
I was going to say now. It's
now we know.
So now we know that the end of that story is Kathleen Kelly reopens her bookstore as a successful children's author, probably at this point, and
from her divorce settlement.
And Joe is probably trying desperately to sort of get some kind of like financial consultant.
He definitely just gets a gambling addiction.
Something's got to go wrong because I know we're meant to believe somehow that Meg Ryan is the woman that turns his life around because he's like 40 and he has not married or anything.
Right.
Like, this is not the great guy. This is
not
a guy
that there's anything wrong with that, everyone.
No, but in the rom-com setting.
Where in the context.
In the context of this movie when he's talking to his dad and his grandfather about all their many relationships.
They're all like, how come you didn't get married as much as us?
Yeah.
Like,
and he
says, his dad has had affairs with all of his nannies and didn't remember them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's extremely
so he might
have
need some therapy.
Oh, for sure.
About his communication with women. That's fair to say as well. But I mean, there's always the ending of the rom-com has to be, which some of them are a little better than others, or a little bit more overt than others. This is the person that changes his life.
Yeah.
This is finally, he has been searching.
Yeah.
Well, literally in this movie, all over New York. for this one woman.
It so sucks that like he has to decimate her life and take everything from her so that he can end up being built up by her and saved by. Like, it's just such a depressing forecast of sort of the gendered expectations of what women do for men in relationships.
Like if they really wanted us to believe the Gene Stapleton line, which is, look at you are not tied down anymore.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. Then she wouldn't marry someone who owns a bookstore. Because that's a lateral move.
I mean, why couldn't she just get together with Parker Posey and then they develop like this cool, amazing new children's publication or something? Like that would be a happy ending.
Maybe that's where it goes. Maybe
that would be a truly happy ending.
I mean,
they have that one kiss and she's like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, she ends up, the dog tries
she
to...
takes Brinkley.
She takes Brinkley because he's cute. And she's just like, you know what? This was fine, but maybe this isn't for me. I've got to go and write all these children's books.
I got to get to a Greek island and do some thinking.
I'm going to just I don't know, just something. She deserves something because I really, I thought Meg Ryan was so good.
She's extremely charming in this movie.
She is.
And
she really nailed the hair. I love that particular Meg Ryan hair.
It's the most Meg Ryan of Meg Ryan hair.
It is that.
It's perfect.
It is just perfect.
Yeah.
It's
perfect.
Later on, it would become the Jennifer Aniston, but it's too long.
Uh-huh. This is perfect Meg Ryan hair, for sure.
Yeah. And no, she was, and her wardrobe wasn't as twee as it usually is.
I thought she was the most sort of gentle. I mean, I did like her in When Harry Met Sally, but
she is great in When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah,
she is. But they gave her so many insecurities, just so many little twerk things, which I know you complain about with Nancy Meyers movies. That Diane Keaton always has to be some kind of person with a million neuroses.
And I feel like the two of them sort of have, there's a parallel generationally between the two in the roles that they,
Have they ever played mother and daughter? Because I can
no, but they should.
I can see that,
they
definitely.
Should that, so easily.
And then just throw Reese Witherspoon as
she can
the
be
next
the
generation.
granddaughter.
And then,
and just we could do a 6 story.
And they all date the same guy, but they don't know. No, I've seen that movie.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
No, but I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
One Man or whatever.
I have not seen this, but...
that sounds awful.
No, they're not generational.
Okay,
but
good.
It's bad.
But that sounds
it's
awful.
Cameron Diaz and... What's her name?
I don't know.
And what's her name? And what's his name?
I mean, I believe you. I believe you about all of it.
Airplane.
But yeah.
So
it's fair. It sounds like an airplane movie.
Yes, it was. It was definitely, and it didn't.
You've given enough clues that people can Google it.
Yeah.
I also feel like I don't understand how we are supposed to be emotionally invested in their relationship. In addition to all of the points that you just made, especially about what she's going to have to do with her life now if she stays with him. But also, the only times I felt emotional were about the bookstore closing. It was loaded with meaning. It was her mom's store.
Yes.
And also, it was beautiful. It was so cute. I've worked at multiple independent bookstores and a big box store, and I've closed 3 bookstores. I just personally was filled with emotion, and I cried every time.
Yeah.
They brought it up. I was like, no, they're gonna close them. So even though I knew it was happening.
Yeah.
But every time I was like, this is something extremely meaningful for her. It holds something personal. And that's why I liked that she said that. She's like, it is personal for me. Because it is personal.
Yes.
It's her mom. She doesn't have her anymore. It holds all of these things about her life.
And his family life is awful.
Yeah, he doesn't know what quality family.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't at all.
His quality family time is when his dad's new fiance, who's younger than him, is stroking his leg at a Thanksgiving party.
Oh boy, that was a lot.
I mean, I do respect her though.
Oh yeah, no, me too. I go for it, I guess.
She picked the wrong guy because we all know Joe Fox is not great.
Well, that's the thing. She's not gonna do well with any of those Fox men. I think
she made a good choice to leave.
And to hook up with the babysitter, that's a great
choice.
Yeah.
Agree.
So
the
smart.
nanny, the beautiful blonde nanny.
Yeah, finally.
She barely spoke in the movie, but
yeah,
she was very significant.
She was, and I mean, I do like I do like the sort of. It's kind of an Alanis Morissette style irony that finally she leaves him for the nanny. It's great.
It's perfect.
I appreciate that a lot. I just just so many levels of gross that the dudes are in this film are just always operating at. Even Greg Kinnear's character, who is just so desperate to be impressive to women. The very fact that as a journalist he wrote this story about his girlfriend's bookstore.
Yeah.
huge like ethical violation in terms of like, you know, your general journalist standards and practices. You're not going to be able to write a story like that about your significant other's store.
No.
Oh my God.
It was pretty absurd. And not only that, write the article and then get invited on television to be interviewed about it?
Yeah.
Why not have her?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense
Oh
that
my
he
gosh.
is...
Oh my gosh.
Did not make...
Why did I not even think of
it's
that?
her... As I just said, this story is extremely important to her whole life. And then she's like, no, honey, you take that TV spot. You go talk to them. Like, there's no reason.
And then he just grossly hits on her and makes his girlfriend watch the episode.
And he has that weird little mullet.
Yeah.
He has like the last traces of a mullet in the late 90s.
He's the kind of guy who also thought that he would end up being like a high-profile professor and could get as much teenage girl business as he wanted.
Oh yeah.
And this is his like other best case scenario is to be a somewhat celebrated New York writer.
He could be like a Dan Mallory type. I don't know if anyone read this, but yeah.
I didn't read the article, but it would be great.
Yeah. I feel like again, all of these things happened at the same time as I was watching this movie again. I was like, too many parallels going on always in the world.
Always.
Exactly.
With like gross dudes.
It
gross.
is, and I think that's the bad and like the bad. It didn't have a good. It was like there were certain moments that were fun watching it. I always love whatever apartment they give Meg Ryan too.
Yeah, of course.
It's
always
great, yeah.
like that little house thing. Whenever she has, oh my gosh, it's the same as in You.
Yeah.
It's a brownstone,
It
isn't
is,
it?
yeah.
It's a brownstone
I
apartment.
mean, it's a classic
Sorry.
sort of New York apartment.
Yeah, no, it
for
is.
sure.
It is.
You know what? I didn't realize that Nora Ephron also has had a thing about putting Tom Hanks on a boat. Because in Sleepless in Seattle, Sleepless in Seattle, he's on a boat too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Joe
There's
versus
something
the
for her
volcano.
about men and boats. That to me is heard as very manly.
might be a boat scene in Joe versus
I'm
the
pretty
volcano
sure there
they're
is.
in Hawaii and they
Yeah.
have to like I think get to
Yeah.
the titular volcano.
The titular
Yes.
volcano. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What a great name for a book.
The titular volcano. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm into it.
I mean, I think actually the way that we all said that in unison and then laughed at the same time, as a coven, we have now manifested this to happen for you.
The titular volcano, yeah.
The titular volcano.
I like that.
I think
Okay.
we brought it forward. I'm pretty excited. One of the pieces about this movie that I thought was actually hilarious was just like the headline was like, even the evil people read in this movie. And I thought, you know what? That's actually one nice takeaway.
That is a
It's
good
like,
point.
We don't know for sure that they read, but they own a bookstore.
Yeah.
So we have to assume some
It is
level-
exciting to know that they get together for their evil empire meetings on the top of those skyscrapers and talk about books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will
did
win with books. Not like weapons or drugs or prostitution. It's books.
I did find all of their conversations, like all the industry stuff, very funny. Because I also think that the attitudes now have not changed. Like, the attitudes of people towards big box stores,
No, it's...
unchanged. The attitudes towards indie stores have unchanged.
Yeah.
I actually think the reason it's a children's bookstore is to further enhance the empathy for her and the store. Because if it was just a regular adult independent bookstore, those are the people that are, like, total jerks all the time and are, like... judgmental and they're like really pumped. I mean, you've been there.
Yeah.
And they're
The
like,
guy leaning on the counter looking for some Kerouac or Bukowski.
yeah. And
or
if you're not
something,
buying the right thing,
Yeah.
I mean, I was never that person. I remember working in a bookstore with several men, an independent bookstore, and they would always be like, "Why are you being so nice?" I'm like, "Because we work in customer service, and I don't hate people."
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to tell you.
That's the show.
Yeah.
Remember Black Books? You must.
Yeah. Of course,
That's exactly Black Books, right?
It is, and
He was
I've just
hated
like
everyone.
You think that people buying these shopaholic books isn't going to keep us in business? Like, don't be absurd. People want whatever self-help books. People want this, like, chick lit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are still people in here buying cool stuff.
And it's okay. You get staff picks right there at the front.
Yeah.
Everyone gets to know how awesome you are.
Lots of
'Cause
opportunities.
Look, Brian's staff pick right there.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
I mean, if you think that your staff pick is getting you laid, you're wrong.
Yeah.
So don't think that.
But if you do find a woman who's attracted to that, marry her quickly.
Yeah, like, get in.
Get in right now if she's into Brian's
Don't
pick.
gaslight her. Apologize for
Yeah.
any weird stuff immediately. Get in.
Tom Hanks, I mean, you know, do you think that, like, sort of this movie, people liked it, people really were like, there are still people who are writing articles to this day saying that You've Got Mail is a perfect film that they watch over and over and over again. Is it that...
I mean, I also would write that about Big Daddy, so I mean, there's stuff for everybody.
There you go. We have our things.
We do have our things.
Yeah.
But is it also just like Tom Hanks is a very, like, he's an affable actor. Like, even though Joe is a jerk throughout so much of this.
But we don't
Tom
think
Hanks
he is
get a
because
bit
we
of a
see him
pass?
writing his letters.
Well, that's the thing. We
think that's his real
we
self.
We have this softening of him
Yeah.
and this, like, performative vulnerability in, like, when he's alone in front of a computer.
Yeah.
And he owns a dog. He
does,
does all
yeah.
these little things.
Takes the kids
He's good with
out,
the kids.
yeah.
He does that bare minimum thing.
Yeah.
Like Zoe Whittall, I believe it's still her pinned tweet, the writer, says,
yeah.
I just want to be as respected as a man holding his own baby in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And essentially
Yeah.
that's the level we're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is
So the
doing-
Daily Mail will call him a doting dad.
Yeah. He's the bare minimum of, like, expectations we hold for a person.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't murder kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has a dog.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
nice in writing.
He gets mad, doesn't call someone a whore. Like, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He does get
Yeah.
mad and call her a bitch.
Yeah,
He does. That part
That's
is awful.
true.
And
I
there's
actually was mad.
that awful
Oh.
scene where him and Dave Chappelle go to the restaurant when they're
Yeah.
going to meet the first time.
Yeah.
And he's like, basically wants to know if she's hot or not.
Yeah.
And
no.
it is so awful.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't
it's-
like that
No,
scene.
it was very
it's really bad.
uncomfortable
It made
and
me
awful,
really upset.
And
Yeah.
he
Hated
should have
it.
just. You know who wasn't asking someone to come around and check on that? Meg Ryan.
No. She was just had
She
her
wanted
heart open.
to meet the person who wrote those.
Yeah.
Even though she should have been safe and had a friend.
Right.
Because
Agreed.
she's
Yeah.
the one that's in
Yeah.
the vulnerable position.
She is in
Right.
the vulnerable
And
position, yeah.
she opened her heart, and what did he do? Is she hot? It was like really.
It was awful. I
Yeah.
hated that scene.
Do you think that there is a scenario of this film where actually Meg Ryan was supposed to play the Joe Fox part and they gender swapped it? Because I'm just thinking of, like, a few different ways in which Meg Ryan does operate, like, with the freedoms that we sort of associate with male privilege. Like, she's not sort of like a typical rom-com woman character necessarily.
She's not looking for love. It's not something that.
I agree.
Yeah.
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 Like, she goes into the chat room, and that's also weird because that means the meet cute for real, like the actual meet cute love part happens off camera.
Yeah.
We don't see it. We do see the meet, but it's much later.
Yeah.
So I was also thinking about that too, like the way that these two interact is kind of separated from
Yeah.
the way we normally encounter.
Yeah.
I guess it's also kind of supposed to be playing on this, like, Austinian, just like Jane Austen vibe.
Yeah, because they do reference.
Yeah.
Pride and
And there's
Prejudice
also in like Austen novels, there's always people think that somebody feels something else and they are somebody else, and all of this
Yeah, like
hullabaloo.
well, the lack of, like, transparent, agency of emotion.
But I love that about her character.
I do too, and that's
Yeah,
why
that's a good point.
I
I
was
hadn't-
only
yeah.
just like, it only just hit me when you were talking about, like, the restaurant and how she goes alone, and he gets to bring the friend. Like, so often this movie feels like it's Joe's journey when it shouldn't. It should be Kathleen's journey.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like,
I think it's more of maybe on a storytelling level, like trying to balance it.
yeah, I guess
As opposed to it necessarily, because that in one way is something that's good about the film. Like, it's not necessarily putting people into, like her specifically, into that stark role that we associate with the female protagonist of a rom-com. Like,
Yeah.
this is how she has to behave and this is what she has to do. So I think that's actually good. Like, in the framework of the story, if that was how they built her character and then a bunch of other stuff happened, like if the Joe Fox character was completely different, if the premise of the film was totally different but you kept that
Yeah,
character,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a great character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like it's two stories.
Yes.
Because you have their relationship, and then you throw in the fact that she has a little bookstore and he has a big one. Like, almost okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why did we need that?
It's almost such artifice that's
Yeah.
why it doesn't work.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
too. And which are the? I mean, I guess there's that idea that you're that their real selves are being expressed in these letters? Is that the?
Well, I mean,
that's a good question.
I think that's what we are supposed to take away from it.
Yeah.
And I will take it back to the fact that it is inspired by an actual play
Right.
that existed before the movie existed, and then
and before the original movie existed.
and before the original, and then You've Got Mail got turned into a play again, because I think it
Wait,
is,
did it become a musical?
maybe it's a musical. I thought it was a play. Maybe
I
it's
don't
a musical.
remember.
I'm not sure.
I want it to be musical now that I said it.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be great. It's already
You
closed though.
got
It's
mail.
done. Like it.
I mean, I'm not going to watch it.
It opened and closed.
You got mail. You got mail. See, I can sing this because it's not a real song.
No,
It's like a
not a real
tune in
song.
here.
Yeah.
Go to the nut shop where it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's so good.
I'll have a coffee, sir, and a best-selling book. Okay, sorry.
But it is a movie that hinges quite substantially on the written word and communication and like just the way that a play would because of the sort of show don't tell.
So may I put this out? Mm-hmm. Big question here.
Lay it down.
Okay. No one can see my hand gestures here, but I have.
I feel like Dina
open.
really did a
I'm
great
Moses
job of
parting the sea
Yep.
here. So okay. Are we meant to believe in this story? Let's just say that both of them are not who they say they are. He is not Mr. Big Book Business guy. She is not small independent mom's bookstore because they're both from their families. Mm-hmm. But neither one of them are particularly attached to this role that they have been given. And I'm wondering a little bit if maybe a few scenes of Meg Ryan expressing a bit more of that were edited, but we kept all of the ones with Joe Fox, seeming ambivalent about his dad's role, because there seemed to be some idea about real self. And again, I'm going back to that scene where the bookstore is going to close. And as much as it was sad and she was remembering her mother, I never really got the sense that it was about her. She was upset with her boyfriend because he didn't like anything modern. She didn't seem to be particularly worried about modern things. She was like pretending because she wanted to go online. Like it seemed like she was ready for some sort of leap into this another world. And and then maybe he was as well.
I mean, I just think that her character, even though I like her character, I just feel like her character ended up not getting as much chance to, have the depth and stuff because of the fact that she's being manipulated. So Joe, we're meant to understand that he's not this bad guy that he actually kind of is behaving as. And he gets to have all different kinds of layers and stuff. And she gets to be this, he objectifies her kind of constantly. He talks about how she's like so beautiful. He talks about how she's like basically like an angel in her bookshop, that she's like all these different things. He underestimates whether or not she's going to fight for the bookshop, and she does. And she comes out and shows that she's, willing to sort of throw down the gauntlet, at least briefly. In her fight against him. But I just feel like we end up not getting as much of her because she stands in for what we're supposed to see. It really does come down to Joe's journey.
I agree. And I think that part of it is also that aside from both of them being lonely and wanting and going online and having sort of that action, she doesn't really have any other motivation as a character.
Well, that's what I'm...
So, like,
yeah.
she is... Mm-hmm. He's an active character coming for her, and she's a reactive character, and she's constantly being the reactive character.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have... Yeah, it's exactly that. She doesn't have the ability to have hopes and dreams and a character arc, like a journey, because it's all imposed on her.
Yeah. Well, even just the fact that, like, they she's like, yeah, I mean, I even got this phone call about like writing a children's book. Can you imagine me as a children's book writer? Yes.
It's a perfect thing for you to do.
Yes, exactly.
You have been raised in a children's bookshop and sold children's books your whole life.
You were stocking shelves when you were 6.
That's the thing. Like, I mean, of course.
That's what I feel like. That's what I mean. I feel like there's parts of the movie missing.
She's been pushed down.
Yes.
And parts, yes. There's so much about her that we don't know.
Yeah. And then I would like to believe that there's some moment for her where she's becoming something else now. And there's an opportunity to become something else. And maybe through all of his billions of dollars, she will start another book line, or I don't know. I'm hopeful.
I I mean, like
I'm writing scenes that aren't in the movie.
No, I know, but that's because this is one of those movies where it is dissatisfactory at the end when they come together because you want more for her.
I did. I wanted a lot more from her, and I would always, as the relationship goes on, I'm always conscious of how you would trust him.
Yes.
How could you ever trust
someone
him?
Basically closes your business.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I definitely want to bone down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then after that, you're just like, oh, what am I doing here?
There is.
It's a
just
real
no
talking
way.
head situation.
And that whole Godfather thing, which I thought was super interesting.
That was very weird.
It's
because
weird,
it's such a guy thing, right? And I thought that was kind of an interesting...
Well, they let her have some commentary about sort of the sexism and the misogyny that sort of guides so much of sort of that capitalist pursuit, but they don't let her ever go far enough.
Can I just say, though, I am guided by a quote from The Godfather?
Which one?
Oh, do you have one too?
I mean, there's always stuff from The Godfather that's relevant.
When Vito tells, I think it's Tommy, Robert Duvall's character, never let them know what you're thinking.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
And I've sadly carried that with me, and I've never really had any situation that I think that I super need to negotiate that hard.
Yeah.
But it does stick
I mean,
in
I
my
feel like
head.
for me, it's always two. It's, I knew it was you, Fredo.
Oh.
But also take the cannoli, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, those are the two most important.
I didn't know about the mattresses, though. Have you ever thought about it?
No, I never thought that was like...
I had to look that up.
Yeah, I also did. Like, you remember the horse head.
Yeah.
But you're like, what is this other stuff?
Although I have read people say recently, how hard a sleeper are you that you don't hear someone come in your room, stick a horse head in your bed?
They should have
Was
had
it a big bed?
They should have had another scene where they put some chloroform on this guy's face.
I feel like I'd
There's
wake
no
up.
other... Yeah, if someone put a big thing in my bed, I would... Like, and it was wet.
Yeah.
And blood. Like, I don't know. I feel like if someone put a bloody thing in my bed, I might know.
Yeah, I think I would.
I mean, at the very least, have a scene where he's like, whoa, the street construction's so loud tonight.
Yeah, there's
Sleep
other
with
things that you
earplugs.
could do.
Yeah, but he's
to,
like in a
make
mansion
easy.
in the middle of LA somewhere.
well.
I
And
mean,
people also are like carrying it, and they're probably panting uncontrollably.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're like carrying this awkward dead weight.
Well,
Anyway, really important.
Anyway,
So-
not important.
so you've got mail.
Yeah.
Ultimately, on this Valentine's Day episode, I think we can all be like, well, we don't appreciate this relationship.
No.
But does the movie still pop?
There's worse ways to spend a few hours.
I don't think it does.
Fair.
But it's not the best of all the rom-coms.
Yeah, there's
out
just
there
so
at
many,
all.
So many
other
other
rom-coms that I
There
think
really
you could
are.
go for.
That make
Yeah.
you feel good about love. I mean, at the very end, my expectation of a rom-com is that I need to feel good. Like,
Yes.
Good for you too.
See,
You crazy kids.
like the comedy part of the rom-com, and this did not really
Yeah,
have
well,
a lot
that
of
has
too.
comedy.
That
comedy.
too.
Like, as a person who loves comedy
Yeah.
and is super into it, I was like, be funnier.
Yeah.
Because for me,
I
I'm
didn't
never as
laugh. Did
into.
I laugh? Maybe.
I'm never as into the love part. I'm like, love, whatever, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Be funny at least, so that and have good chemistry, whatever. But
Yeah.
if you're not gonna be funny, don't waste my time.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Live up to at least half of it. And this is
Yeah.
neither romantic
To be
enough
fair, it didn't
nor
even have the rom we liked.
Well, that's the thing.
and
It's,
without
not,
the
it's not
com, so
romantic
it's
enough
not-
without
yeah.
being
So what
comedic
is
enough.
this?
And so this is...
This is a B-list book that Joe Fox has put on sale.
Yeah, this
at
is in the
Fox
bargain
book.
section.
This is
the
in the bargain section. Yeah.
We've come to the part where we like to say what we do recommend. So, as our guest of honor, would you like to go first? Dina?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, I thought of two things, so I'm just gonna tell people.
Sure.
If you haven't already watched Dairy Girls is amazing. It's so funny. It's so charming. The characters are.
There's a girls'
it's just
school
so
in
delightful.
Ireland?
Yeah,
Or
so it's
the
a
private school,
girls'
or- yeah.
Catholic school in Ireland, and it's during the Troubles.
Ah, the trouble.
And so, yeah.
The Troubles.
The Troubles, yeah.
Yes.
And so it's about them, but also their families. And It's extremely, extremely funny. There's a really great scene that involves a chocolate fountain, so just definitely tune in for that alone. It's 6 episodes, of course.
And it's on Netflix now.
And it's on Netflix now, yeah. And then there's a really great book coming out. It's not out yet. Have you? Maybe you've already talked about this. Alicia Elliott's A Mind Spread Out on the Ground.
Haven't talked about it yet.
So just read an advanced reading copy. So amazing.
So lucky.
It's going to be something that people are talking about this year for sure. This amazing essay collection. She is an amazing writer. She will also be here for Growing Room Festival.
She sure will.
At which Andrea and I are both participating.
Yeah.
Alicia and I are on a panel together.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'll wave.
Yay.
Yeah.
I read books.
Yeah, no, that's great. So both of those things, highly recommend. One is extremely funny. They're both like extremely funny, but also emotionally resonant and beautiful and great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Lisa, you want to go next?
Yeah, so if you didn't get enough of, sad scams and hoaxes in the Fire Festival documentaries, and who hasn't?
I haven't watched them.
Well, that's looking forward for you. And you just are worried about our culture of elevating people who start dubious businesses and have no reason to and might take down civilization. You might enjoy this podcast that I have started listening to called The Dropout. Mm-hmm. And this is the really great investigative journalist Rebecca Jarvis and her look at Elizabeth Holmes, who you might recall started this company a few years back called Theranos. It was going to be for blood testing.
Yes.
Do you know this? Yes. And so this is a deep dive into how she managed to do this, largely because she was born with money and attractive.
And white and blonde and all these things. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's more. There's a lot more.
There's always more.
And it's a fantastic podcast. There's only just 2 episodes out now that I've listened to. I expect more, but it is really good.
That's awesome. I'm also going to just recommend it's a podcast we've talked about before, and we had Karina Longworth here for the Vancouver Podcast Festival last fall. But she has put You Must Remember This on indefinite hiatus, and it's that
women
makes me...
around the world, I think, were in tears.
I mean, I'm very sad. I understand. I think,
too.
from her perspective, it's so much work that she puts into this thing. Mm-hmm. She's writing and, recording and often editing every episode. It's just a tremendous amount of work. We are very lucky that we have a producer like Andrea Gin who does all the editing for us. But yeah, it's a lot. So I completely understand why Karina needs to take some time away from it. But I'm just so grateful for You Must Remember This, and I've loved it.
There's
so
a lot
much
to listen to still, and you could even re-listen to.
And that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's so much great stuff, and it's so much about using the lens of Hollywood to talk about women's stories. That's not just what her book did, but it's what she's always done through the podcast, and I think it's just really great. So thanks, Karina Longworth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was great to meet you.
It was so nice to meet you.
I'm sorry I fawned.
I'm sad I missed the podcast festival.
Yeah, well, next year.
Next year.
Or like this year, I guess.
Whatever
But, like,
year
Oh, wow,
it is.
we're in 2019.
It's 2019.
Forgetting
I
to.
know.
Wow.
It's going to be so good. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. Thank you, Dina, for
Thank
taking
you
time
so
to hang out
much.
with us.
Thank you. This was a delight.
It was.
You know,
thank you.
my favorite thing in the whole world is having very, very smart people talk about really dumb things.
Me too.
Same.
Yeah.
That's why I have a literature podcast, so I can be that person.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you would like to follow Dina on Twitter, yeah?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter.
All right.
It's at Delbauchery.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So
So find me there.
And you can check out her podcast with Jen Sukfung Lee called Can't Lit.
Yep. And it's wherever you get your podcasts.
It sure is. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. You can hang out with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You could also rate and review us on iTunes. We like those little 5-star reviews, and we appreciate how they've been accumulating.
5 stars only.
5 stars
Yeah.
only.
Yeah.
We don't want
If
to
you're
hear
listening,
from
you only
if
got a
you're-
3. Just go find something else.
We don't want.
Obviously, we're not.
Go
your
rate Mark
thing.
Maron's podcast. Just kidding.
You can also stream us on Spotify and listen on Stitcher and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you again so much, as always, for joining us. We record at the Vancouver Public Library. Our producer is Andrea Gin, and we will see you very soon.
Thank you.